It always comes to this. Hello there guys, here to do another tattoo progress update today. Where I last left off, I had just showed off the color on my stomach. It was not healed then, but it is now. So it's still hard to see. It's a strange one where you have to get real close to it in order to really see it, but there's all kinds of colors in there now. So I like it quite a bit more. We might do a second pass of the colors. This was, in an odd way, more like just for experimentation than anything for me. It meant a lot to Rick to do these colors, and people are still going to say it looks like a sunflower and whatever, but just for me to be able to see that all those colors are doable over black was a real cool thing. So obviously I had another session this week, as I mentioned. I've got 2 sessions next week too. I'll get into what we're going to be doing in those in a minute, but we did the second pass on the white here and here, and we relined my script tattoos. This one's saying Ephemeral, and this one's saying Undying. I've had the Ephemeral one for, I believe, 7 years. I did not get it in relation to my account name, for anyone wondering that, or if they had before. Ephemeral has always been a word that I've really enjoyed. Actually, oddly enough, I used to read, well, I still do read, like kind of old school horror novels, Frankenstein, Dorian Gray, you know, the kind of, what's the word I want to say, Victorian era kind of gothic horror. I really liked those books, and ephemeral was a word that was used a lot back then, and it always was. I always was like, kind of like, I wonder why that word isn't more used. I don't know why that word isn't more in our kind of vernacular. I didn't know why certain words got left behind. I guess we don't use it often, but I think we probably should. It's a good way to describe something that doesn't last long or something that's always changing. And obviously that's been the nature of my my tattoo journey, my piercings, all of that. Even as far back as 7 or 8 years ago, I was constantly changing things. Same as, like, I've always done crazy things with my hair and stuff like that. So for me, it was always like, this word sums up a lot of my existence. And I'm going to say right now, probably for the rest of my days will. So that's why I got that one. Obviously, the name of my my Instagram and my TikTok and YouTube was just obviously that same idea, just broadened out or carried forward. The Undying one was like, I got this one 4.5 years ago. Rick did it. It's one of the first things that Rick did on me. Rick being the guy who's doing my bodysuit, obviously, did my leg blackouts, etc. It was one of the first tattoos that he did on me when I started getting tattooed by him again. I did a whole video on my tattoo artist Rick where I told the story of what Rick is like to work with and kind of some of the things that Rick has done over the years. But long story short, I took about 7 years off getting tattooed by him, and my other artist Lee had to talk me back into working with him on some projects that were a little outside of Lee's repertoire. One of the first things that I did with Rick was I did this tattoo with him, and it was kind of in a way I had him pay me back, because he was always supposed to do the original face tattoos that I got, the stars on my face, about 11 years ago, and he didn't do them. So then, as almost like a trial to see if I wanted to work with him again, I offered him the chance to do this one for me, and he didn't turn me down this time. I think it was partially because he knew that he fucked up in the past, and even though he'd never admit it or say it that way, I think he was happy that I was giving him another shot. We ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff we extended my then throat tattoo up to my jawline, and then we extended it a little farther a year or two later, and I had him do a giant piece on the back of my thigh. It was a giant Witch King. I still have it. I have 2 tattoos on the backs of my thighs. The only things I didn't black out. And I kept those ones for him more than for me, even though I don't dislike them. They're great tattoos. In fact, that Witch King tattoo might be the best tattoo I ever had. It's funny because it's in a placement where no one will ever see it. But he spent so much time detailing certain parts of that tattoo. It's an absurd amount of detail. I'll put a picture of it in here. And he worked so hard on that thing. I knew when he was doing my leg blackouts, it was going to be, he never objected to blacking out anything, not even this chest piece. Even though this was one of his favorite pieces he ever did. It was always like, well, it's your journey, it's your tattoos, like, you know, it's your body, your choice kind of thing. But I knew that it would pain him to black that Witch King out. And I also knew that it would be of little consequence to me, whether it was there or not. It's not like I'm interacting with the back of my thighs very often anyway. So for me, it was like, yeah, we'll keep that one. And I don't see the reason why I'll ever need to black it out either. And I still love those movies. So I also have the Mouth of Sauron on my other back of thigh. That one isn't as good. It was done by Lee, and it was done in about a third of the time. But it's still really cool, and even though it's not as good, I actually like that one more. I'm going to see if I can find an image of that too. I like Lee's black and gray a bit more than Rick's black and gray. It's a higher contrast, less detail. It's like more painterly, where Rick's is like more like classic, like less artistic, more like dead on realism. It looks realistic to a T. So it looks exactly like what the image looks like, where Lee's leaves out some of the little details and ends up being a bit more striking. And the blacks are blacker because there's more negative space and less gray and all that. But anyway, yeah. So we redid these with Panthera Black. They didn't need to be redone again. They were still dark, and they weren't blown out or anything. We didn't have to correct anything. I just know that I'm going to redo everything on my face. I want them to be in equal balance. I want them to be the same black. So it was no trouble to do those. I think it took like maybe 5 minutes each. And again, these are small, so we hit the white again. I wanted them to be the same value as this white on black and black on black. So we didn't need to do the black again, but we wanted to increase the contrast with the white. So now that will be an equal balance here. And that will mean that, as I said earlier, I'm having another session with Terry next week. I believe anyway, unless things change. Unless he gets super busy or whatever. We're going to be doing a second pass on the white in here. One thing we're going to do is we're going to put some white shading in between these so that each of the black lines around them will pop more. And what it should do is increase the focus. So I thought about this for a long time. And again, this is always me. I'm always the one brainstorming these things. Usually I'll have an idea and I'll bring it to the artist. You know, these guys have never done this work before. And to some extent, I'm more experienced with it than almost anyone at this point. Even though I'm not the one actually executing it, I'm thinking all the time about how to make this stuff be more vibrant. And that's part of why I can get this stuff. Part of why you can see this from across the room clearly. And a lot of white on black work you can't, is because I'm experimenting with it and figuring out how to do this the best way. And even though I'm not the technician, I'm the inspiration behind it, or the brains behind it, or the visionary, or whatever you want to call it. And then I just, the artists that I'm working with are the ones carrying out that work. And they do have to be fundamentally skilled artists, but this has never been Terry's idea. Terry is a good hand, but he has limited imagination for this kind of stuff. He's a good artist overall, but his vision is a little limited right now, which is part of why his books aren't as full as, say, Rick's. Anyway, just to give a little backstory on where Terry's at, he's only been tattooing for a few years, so that's entirely common. I think that will work itself out, and he's getting better kind of every day, and that's another reason that we're working together. It's because I'm trying to push him, because he's already very proficient. He's already very good at tattooing. I just think that it's the inspiration behind the tattooing isn't as far along as it could be. So anyway, in saying that, by bordering this whip shading white off of the black line work, what's going to happen is it's going to push that black outline out farther, and this is going to seem more in the foreground, and the neck is going to be in the background more. We're also going to build thorns up around my neck, in between the roses. It's another thing we've talked about. So this whole neck is going to be filled in with designs by the end. Designs and shading. There will be no negative space really left at the end of it. It's all going to be shaded over. And I think that's probably going to be what my bodysuit is. The third bodysuit is probably going to be another full coverage bodysuit by the end of it. It's already full coverage. So what I mean to say is there will be no negative of the dynamic black left, really, other than for a mid-tone in places. Like some of this has the dynamic black in it. When we do the second pass of these white on black roses, the white anyway, because the black has been done several times, we're going to do solid white again everywhere, and then we're going to come back into them again later. In a few months from now, we're going to hit the white again, just in a few spots, though, to create contrast between the third pass white and the second pass white. Now, that sounds really hard to imagine, but we're going to achieve really, really high points, and we're going to leave the second pass white to achieve sort of a middle ground in the white, and then we'll have the darker black and the medium black, the dynamic, and it will have almost 4 different tones. So 4 different tones created with blackout. That's what we're going for there. And that's what I'm going to be going for with my sleeves and pretty well everything else too. We've already done it a lot in a lot of places on my torso, and I already know that this is true, that this works. So it's just about carrying it out. And these things can't be done in one session. When you're layering things, they just absolutely have to be done over time. So, to be clear to everyone watching, I know what my next 5 to 10 sessions look like with Terry, and I know what my next 5 to 10 sessions look like with Rick. And by the time I'm 2 or 3 sessions ahead, I'll know what the next 13 look like. I'm always kind of mindful of where I'm going. I don't ever necessarily know where I'm going to be a year or 2 from now, but I know what the next couple months looks like always. It's a gradual process of learning the line and then pushing the line and then figuring out how much farther you can push the line and then going there, right? And then when you get there, you go a little farther. Because people always ask me if I've got this planned out from day one. It can't be planned out from day one. Not in the territory we're in. Because so much of what we're doing has never been done before. It's going to take a unique approach to get there. And I don't know where I'll be a year from now. I'll tell you this, it'll be a lot crazier than where I'm at now. And it'll be even more impossible than it is what I'm doing now. Anyway, I just wanted to rant a bit about what we're up to and stuff today. So I'll show these off again real close. Again, these are going to stay nice and bright now. It'll be like that, less like that. And that's still pretty good, but we want more like that contrast. And we're going to get it this time. So, all right. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.